So I was talking to a client in a strategy session, and we were talking about how the brand's story should be told to the audience, right? Because look, every brand has a story. It has the origin story, which is what the brand is about, where it came from, and so on and so forth. But there's also another story that needs to be told to align with the audience. Now, most brands, like this client that I was talking to, have a preconceived notion of what their story is, what their brand stands for, right? And also, more importantly, they sort of have this perception of their brand that they then want to sort of force their audience to receive and understand and accept. Now, that used to work in the past. Okay, so 5 years ago, actually more, 10 years ago, 15, 20, and going back all the way to advertising and all that, the primary kind of communication with audience, with the target audience, with the target market was advertising. It was selling, right? So you have a product and you then create an advertising campaign to sell that product, and people fell for that advertising and they did buy the products or services. And during that process, if they loved the product, then they became loyal to the brands. If they did not, then those brands sort of did not survive. But then there's been a transition, a huge transition over the last few years. And especially now, consumers, they don't like to be sold. So selling is the worst thing you can do. In fact, selling is, if you can, and yeah, I'm probably going to get some flack from people watching this video, is I would say remove selling from your brand vocabulary, right? From your marketing. Marketing, yes, has to be done, especially inbound marketing. So again, marketing is not about shouting and making loud noises just to force a message down an audience throat, right? No, that's not marketing. Marketing should be about inbound. It's about bringing the audience, making them interested in your brand. But selling by itself, then what would you call it? What would you call it then? If it's not selling, then what is it? Well, branding. That's what you need to call it. You're building a brand, because once you build a brand, your brand then brings in the revenue, it brings in the sales and all that. But anyway, that's a quite a broader topic, and I'm just using some broad brushstrokes. But the point is that to communicate with your audience, you need to tell the story that aligns with their worldview, right? It's about telling the story not as you see it, but as your audience sees it. So that means you need to flip the script, right? You need to turn it around. Your whole marketing, your research, everything has to be turned around. Pay attention to what your audience is perceiving your brand. And if it's a new brand, right? Maybe they don't have any perception of your brand. But what are they perceiving your market segment or your category, right? Because then you have an opportunity. You could sometimes even disrupt yourself, your own brand, and create a new category. You can disrupt the market, because that's where disruption happens. It happens when you evaluate what the consumer, what your target audience is thinking, how are they perceiving this? Because they don't look at your market, they don't look at your brand or your product as something that they just want to buy, right? They have a problem that your product or service solves, and therefore they're interested in their problem. And when I say they, it's us, right? We are the audience. We are audience to someone else's product or service or brand. So it's that disconnect when business owners, when brand owners think of themselves as an isolated entity. That's where the disconnect happens. So start off by looking at the perception that your audience has about your brand if you're already in business, and see how are they looking at you. You may think you're producing the best services, the best products, but what do they think? Right? It's not about customer service. It's not just about quality of the product. We're talking much more. We're talking at a higher level. We're talking about the communication, the message. So today, before anything, if you want to awaken your brand, you need to flip the angle, the narrative that you have in your own mind as the brand stakeholder. If you are just looking at the audience as someone out there and you're going to create this product, you're going to create this story, you're going to say, this is it. And you see this all the time. And, even big brands, they make such big mistakes. And by the way, when I say a story, it's as simple as even something, a process within your company or your brand, right? You could have an airline that forces you to do certain things, right? In this day and age, I hate that word, but literally it's apt for this example. There are some airlines asking for printouts of the boarding pass that you need to bring along with you. And some of them might even penalize you for not bringing your printed. I mean, what is that, right? Change. So the airline has this perception of a process. They think this is the right way to do it. And they're going to force their audience, their customers, to fit that. And you know what? Yeah, that might be, like a silly example, but think about it. In your business, what kind of a process, what kind of a story, what kind of a narrative do you have in place, and you're forcing your audience into it, saying, no, this is the way it has to be because it's good for you. Look, the audience knows what's good for them. And when and you need to sort of look at that and change your processes, right? Okay. So that's all for today. So right now, what you need to do is to really, if you want to awaken your brand, look at your narrative and look at your audience, look at their perception, and then adjust yourself. All right. So if you haven't already liked this channel or subscribed to this channel, go ahead and do it right now. Like this video and also leave some comments, right? Ask me questions. Maybe you don't agree with what I'm saying, right? Just say that. Or maybe you do. Maybe you are in the process and you want to know a little bit more. Ask me questions so that I can put them together into another video. All right. Till the next time, take care and let your business prosper.